What if your real power truly began to awaken at the very moment you stopped reacting instinctively? Most people among us are often swept away, tossed by erratic emotions, by the conflicting opinions of the crowd, by the invisible and visible pressures of life. But those who truly rise, those who make a difference, they are masters of stillness. When you act as if nothing external can touch your inner core, that is when you reclaim control. Not because you have become unfeeling, calloused, no longer capable of being moved. No. But because you have persistently trained your mind to consciously choose how you respond instead of merely reacting hastily, impulsively. In just a few more moments, I will explore with you how to maintain calmness, how to preserve the sharpness of your intellect, and how to act with composure, at ease, seemingly unaffected, no matter what challenges life throws at you. Because your response is what determines the reality you experience. There will come a moment, sooner or later, in every person's life, when the world seems to hurl something harsh at them. It could be a bitter insult, a painful betrayal, or an unexpected failure you never anticipated. And in that fleeting instant, everything seems to pause. Not the world pausing, my friend, but time pausing just for you. That precious pause, that is your power. You must realize that it is not the storm that defines your destiny, but rather the stillness you carry within to face that storm. You have been advised to be strong, to be brave, to fight relentlessly. But have you ever wondered if the greatest strength, in fact, is not to react at all costs? Not with burning rage, not with paralyzing fear, but with a quiet confidence, an inner steadfastness. The person who can maintain stillness in the eye of the storm, that person is the one the storm begins to fear, to respect. People often mistakenly believe they must react, respond immediately to maintain control. But the ironic truth is, reacting is the very act of giving away your control to others, to circumstances. You must learn the sacred art of silence. Not the silence of weakness, but the silence of wisdom. If your emotions can be triggered as easily as a lever, then your power in reality lies in someone else's hands. You become their puppet, your strings pulled by their words, their actions. But when you learn to maintain your composure, when your heartbeat remains steady, whether in loss or at the peak of triumph, that is when you have truly risen above them. You no longer play their game. Instead, they begin to watch your every move. So, how do you begin to practice this? Start with observation. Instead of reacting immediately, practice being a witness. Let others shout if they wish. Let the world judge if that is what they choose. Let failures come as an inevitable part of life. Sit with them. Feel the discomfort consensio within you, and then decide. Not a decision based on fleeting anger, but based on the core values you pursue. Responding is not suppressing emotions, absolutely not. It is a conscious choice. The more often you choose not to react impulsively, the more your spirit strengthens its armor. This is how resilience is built, not through glamorous, dramatic victories, but through quiet, yet powerful decisions made every day. Try to imagine this. Someone mocks your work, your efforts. Instead of rushing to defend yourself, to explain, to argue, you simply smile, offer no justification, and continue building. They might expect a fight, a resistance, but you give them silence. That silence, that unsettling stillness that confuses others, it is not emptiness, it is power. Your calm becomes their confusion, and your discipline becomes your victory. Now ask yourself, when was the last time you reacted hastily and later regretted it? How many times have you wished you had paused, even for just 5 seconds longer before acting or saying something? What if those precious 5 seconds could actually change your destiny? Your greatness begins when you no longer hand over the remote control of your emotions to others. Be like a mountain, not because nothing happens around it. Storms still rage, clouds still gather, but because nothing can shake its solid core. Do not become a slave to emotion. A person governed by their feelings is like a ship with a broken rudder. That ship still moves, yes, but it only goes wherever the waves push it. They smile when praised and crumble completely when criticized. And yet within you exists the ability to steer. You were not meant to drift aimlessly. You were meant to direct your own life. Feeling is natural, but being led entirely by feelings is detrimental. Consider the fire within. It is beautiful, warm when controlled, but it is also devastating, destructive, when unchecked. Your anger, your sadness, your excitement, all of them are just messengers, not masters. When you allow every emotion, no matter how small, to dictate your next step, you no longer walk with intention. You walk with instability, with wavering. So, what is the alternative? It is mastery. It is discipline. It is emotional sovereignty. You begin by labeling the emotion, not becoming the emotion itself. This is frustration. That is fear. You name it, you tame it. And then you decide, does this emotion serve my mission? There will be moments when insults strike or injustice rages against your soul. You will want to lash back immediately. But remember, the one who controls the tempo controls the room. Speak only when your words can build. Act only when your action strengthens your cause. Think about this. You walk into a room. Someone raises their voice, challenging. All eyes turn to you. Do you choose to respond with a similar or even harsher tone? Or do you choose to lower your voice? Speak deliberately, slowly. The latter carries far greater power, because calm is command. The person who maintains their tone, their pace, their grace, that person owns the space. Ask yourself, have I been reacting or responding consciously? Have I let fleeting emotions sabotage my long-term sustainable goals? What if you could reprogram your mind to see offense not as a wound, but as a window into the insecurity of the other person, an opportunity for you to rise, not to fall. You were not born to be ruled by emotion. You were born to rule over it, not to suppress, but to direct. And in that act, you transform. The armor of purpose. When you are anchored by a clear purpose, the winds of opinion, of praise and criticism cannot move you. You may be misunderstood, even mocked, but you do not waver. Why? Because you know where you are going. A person without direction is vulnerable to every distraction, no matter how small. But a person with a clear purpose is almost invincible. Too often people chase the approval of others. They dress for it, speak for it, even abandon their dreams just to please the crowd. But approval is a moving target, always changing. It will exhaust you. Instead, set your compass towards something higher. Not applause, not virtual likes, but the legacy you leave behind. The one who lives for purpose learns not to flinch at noise, at criticism. Here is the key. When you step into a new day, ask yourself, what am I here to build today? That simple question turns every slight, every contempt into silence. You become a builder. And true builders do not abandon their construction site just because someone laughed at the foundation they are laying. They continue to lay brick after brick, patiently. You must learn to silence the world by mastering your work. The louder your creation, the less you need to speak. Let your life be so deeply rooted in purpose that no external drama can uproot you. Picture this. You are writing a book, crafting a vision, diligently working at your trade. Someone throws words at you. Doubt, sarcasm, envy. Do you drop your pen and engage in that futile battle? Or do you continue writing, calm, composed, unstoppable? The second choice? That is greatness. Pause for a moment now. Look at your day today. Is it aligned with your mission? Or are you adjusting your path just to appease others? The deeper your mission, the quieter your mind. And you must ask, am I living by purpose or by pressure? One will lift you, the other will crush you. Calm is the highest currency. There exists a form of wealth that surpasses gold, outlasts empires, and cannot be deposited in any bank. It is the wealth of a tranquil mind. The individual who can move through the storms of life without losing composure holds a force mightier than legions. This kind of presence is not something you can purchase. You must embody it. You must live it. You must train for it. You must earn it. What makes calm so formidable? It is the one thing that cannot be forged. A loud voice can be mimicked, a smile can be painted on a face, but calm, true calm, cannot be imitated. It is forged in the fire of experience. It is won by walking through adversity without letting it steal your center. It is not an act, it is a result. The person who has battled within and emerged grounded possesses a quiet authority no noise can shake. Think of calm as a rare currency. Use it with discernment. When someone insults you, when chaos erupts, when the unexpected shakes your plans. Do not spend your calm recklessly, extravagantly. Hold it like a treasure. Refuse to trade it for the cheap thrills of a momentary reaction. Preserve it, nurture it, allow it to mature. Calm, when invested wisely, becomes the foundation of influence, clarity, and endurance. Habits cultivate calm. Wake before the noise of the world begins. Breathe with depth and purpose. Walk beneath the open sky. Read words that stretch your mind. Reflect before the day demands your attention. Speak only when your words are truly needed. Listen not just to respond, but to understand. Choose your companions with care. Choose companions who elevate your thinking, not those who drain your life. A structured life invites an anchored soul, and an anchored soul does not sway with every wave. Picture two individuals confronted by a violent storm. One yells at the clouds, fist clenched, heart racing. The other calmly builds a refuge using the wind's pressure to secure their shelter. Who emerges stronger? Who leads when the sky clears? The one who responded with calm, not chaos. For calm is not merely protection, it is precision, it is power directed. Ask yourself this: do I treasure my calm, or do I offer it up at the altar of petty disputes, imagined fears, and momentary frustrations? Every time you react without intention, you spend a piece of your peace, and every time you guard it, you grow stronger. Never forget this truth. Your peace is not passive, it is active strength. It speaks louder than noise. It leads without shouting. It is your deepest signal of control, not over others, but over yourself. Guard it. Let it guide you. That is real power. The world mirrors your energy. You walk into a room with your shoulders slumped, your voice hesitant, your spirit questioning its own value, and the world responds accordingly. Eyes glance past you. Opportunities shrink. Respect seems just out of reach. Not because the world is cruel, but because the world mirrors what you radiate. Walk into that same room with posture tall, breath calm, and presence grounded, and everything begins to change. That is the law of reflection. Life does not show you what you deserve. It shows you what you broadcast. If your inner world is filled with confusion, chaos, or criticism, your outer world will begin to echo it. But when your inner world is rooted in clarity, calm, and confidence, the outside starts to align. This is not mysticism, it is magnetism. People do not respond to your intentions, they respond to your energy. Speak strongly without words, and the room will listen. To influence your environment, you must first shape your presence, and presence begins with the voice inside your own mind. That voice must not be filled with hesitation or noise. It must speak with clarity and command. It must not be your enemy, it must be your general. You do not rise by accident, you rise by design, and that design begins within. So how do you transform your energy? Begin with a decision. Decide what tone your life will carry. Quiet strength, clear focus, calm power. Then live in alignment with that tone. Dress with dignity, walk with deliberation, speak with meaning. Protect your attention. Move as if your moments are sacred, because they are. Let your daily actions reflect your inner commitment. Picture yourself stepping into a negotiation, a presentation, or even your own living room. If you carry the energy of fear or doubt, it will be felt before any word leaves your mouth. But if you arrive with self-command and quiet certainty, you shift the entire dynamic. Confidence is not loud, it is composed. Ask yourself, what signal do I broadcast? Do I radiate fear or assurance, confusion or clarity? The world does not just hear your words, it reads your presence. Your presence is a frequency. It teaches people how to respond to you, how to value you, and how to treat you. Remember, you are always teaching others how to treat you, not by demanding it, but by demonstrating it. Your presence is your curriculum. Make it powerful, make it intentional. Make it reflect not who you've been, but who you've decided to become. Power begins where ego ends. Ego is the loud voice in your head that demands recognition. It whispers in frustration, "They shouldn't treat me like that. They don't understand my value." It stirs restlessness within you, making every word from others feel like a challenge, every slight a war to win. But power, true power, does not bark or boast. Power whispers, "Let them talk. I am too focused to notice." The most dangerous threat to your growth is not failure. It is offense, wounded pride. Offense hijacks your attention. It tempts you to pause your mission so you can argue, explain, prove, defend. But every moment spent defending your image is a moment stolen from building your destiny. A person who wears pride on their sleeve becomes a prisoner to their feelings. They are not free, they are tethered, always reacting, never building. You must be careful with your pride. Not because pride is evil, but because it is expensive. It charges you the price of progress. Imagine pausing a masterpiece mid-brushstroke to argue with a passerby who doubts your talent. Foolish, isn't it? Yet that is what happens every time you interrupt your work to protect your ego. Pride demands to be heard. Purpose demands to be served. Begin with this truth. You are not your title. You are not your applause. You are not your critics. You are not even your past wins. You are the work, the vision, the process. You are the hours, the effort, the consistency. You are the person who shows up, rain or shine, building something that outlasts words. How does this change your life? It frees you. When someone underestimates you, you don't waste energy trying to make them see. You let your results speak. You don't prove yourself through reactions, you prove yourself through outcomes. Offense is a detour. Production is the highway. Stay on your path. Picture this. You're in a workshop, you suggest an idea. A colleague mocks it or ignores it. The old self might feel the sting. The ego might rise. But the powerful self smiles, not because it agrees, but because it knows that silence is often strategy. You keep your hands busy. You return later with results that shift the room, not by force, but by proof. Ask yourself, am I more committed to being seen as right or to becoming truly effective? Would I rather spend my energy defending my pride or building something undeniable? Because here is the truth. People forget arguments. They remember achievement. The person who becomes unstoppable is not the one constantly seeking validation. It is the one who validates their vision with action. They move in silence. They build without broadcast. And when the work is done, they let the results echo. Your power is not found in how loudly you defend your ego. It is found in how quietly you put it aside to pick up the hammer and build. Build with focus. Build with patience. Build so well that your work becomes your voice. This is how you outgrow offense. This is how you rise above noise. This is how you lead without saying a word. Drop the ego. Pick up the mission. Silence is strategy. Words have power, yes. But silence has nuclear power. It is the force most misunderstood, most underused, and most feared. People rush to fill silence with noise. They fear being misunderstood, underestimated, or forgotten, so they speak quickly, defend frequently, and explain endlessly. But those who master silence, they do not run from it. They wield it. To walk in silence with intention is to possess a power that cannot be argued with. It does not shout. It does not plead. It simply is, and its presence is undeniable. Silence, when chosen deliberately, speaks louder than any protest. It does not signal weakness. It signals control. You must learn to know the difference between necessary speech and emotional reaction. Speaking just to be heard is the currency of the uncertain, but those who are centered, those who are grounded, choose their words with care and their silences with purpose. Silence is not about withdrawal. It is not passivity. It is not fear. It is restraint, and restraint is a discipline. It says, I am not moved by provocation. It says, I am not performing for your approval. It shows that you are not rushed, not panicked, not easily stirred. You are not interested in proving yourself with noise. You prove yourself with outcomes. Practice the pause, especially when you are challenged, especially when tension is high. Do not be so quick to defend. Do not be so eager to fill the gap. Let your stillness create tension. Let your calm unsettle the chaos. The pause, when intentional, creates presence. And presence commands far more than volume. Picture this. A heated meeting, opinions clash, voices rise, people fight to be the loudest, but there you are, still observing. You do not interrupt. You do not rush to respond. You study. You wait. And when the room finally exhales, that is when you speak, with clarity, with brevity, with command. And in that moment, your words pierce through the noise like a blade through fog, not because you spoke much, but because you waited long enough to speak right. Ask yourself, do I speak out of reaction or out of wisdom? When I remain silent, am I avoiding or am I anchoring? The difference lies not in the act itself, but in the intent behind it. Silence can be fear, but it can also be force. When it is born from clarity, it becomes your sharpest edge. Silence is not emptiness, It is capacity. It is the room where thoughts sharpen, emotions settle, and wisdom forms. It is the space between impulse and action, and those who own that space own themselves. In a world that glorifies noise, be the one who wields silence like a scalpel. Speak when it matters, pause when it doesn't. And always remember, your silence teaches people how to listen. Your quiet presence becomes a signal, not of absence, but of power. Used wisely, silence turns heads, calms storms, and shapes outcomes long before a single word is uttered. Strength is built in stillness. In the quiet moments, those early breaths of dawn before the world awakens, or the hush that follows a long, loud day. You meet yourself, not the version of you that plays roles, meets demands, or chases deadlines, but the real you, the version beneath the noise. It is in these still spaces that strength is forged, not in frenzy, but in focus, not in applause, but in awareness. Power grows in the pause. It grows in those moments when you choose to be present instead of distracted, reflective instead of reactive. Most people fear these moments. They rush from silence to stimulation, terrified of what they might hear if the noise ever stops. But those who master the silence, they become unshakable. The world may reward noise, shouting for attention, scrambling for approval. But your vision, your clarity, your purpose, they demand stillness. Without stillness, your thoughts never finish forming, your fears never fully surface, and thus are never conquered. Your direction remains foggy. Only in solitude do your thoughts become clear, your values surface, your mission solidify. Train yourself to be alone without being lonely. This is not isolation, it is incubation. Use that solitude to ask yourself deep questions. Write what you think before others tell you what to think. Walk slowly, breathe deeply, and listen not to the world, but to your own wisdom. These moments are not empty. They are full of truth. They are your foundation. Do not fear solitude. Embrace it, because it is in these moments that you are quietly constructing an inner fortress, brick by brick, that no chaos can breach. Distractions may tempt you, voices may pull at you, but your center remains firm. That is not weakness, that is control. Picture this. You rise before the sun. While the world sleeps, you move, not frantically, but deliberately. You make your tea, you stretch, you sit with your journal. No interruptions, no notifications, just space, just breath, just vision. In that hour, you are stronger than those who sprint through 10 because you are not reactive, you are ready. That morning's silence becomes your shield. That discipline becomes your edge. Ask yourself honestly, have I carved out silence in my life to build strength, or have I filled every space with noise to avoid meeting myself? You cannot lead others until you have led yourself. And you cannot lead yourself until you have faced yourself in silence, in honesty, in solitude. The strongest people do not run louder, they walk quieter. Their stillness is not passive, it is preparation. A calm before the strike, a breath before the leap. They move not out of panic, but with purpose. This is not slowness, this is precision. So if you want power, stop chasing the noise. Sit in the quiet. Listen to your own mind, trust your own rhythm. Let solitude sculpt you, let stillness steal away your anxieties. That is where your real strength lives. That is where your unshakable power is born. Offense is a test, not a threat. Offense is not something to fear. It is not a sign that you are under attack. It is a test, an opportunity to measure your emotional maturity. When someone offends you, they are not diminishing your worth. They are exposing their own insecurity, fear, or ignorance. Your reaction is not just a response to them, it is a reflection of who you are becoming. How you handle offense reveals your inner condition. Do you carry your identity so loosely that a comment can break it? Or have you planted your roots so deeply in truth that no wind of insult can shake you? The difference lies in self-awareness. A person who knows who they are does not need to prove it to those who don't. Every offense presents a fork in the road. You can react, and in doing so, give away your power. Or you can reflect, and in doing so, deepen your wisdom. Reacting is easy. It is instinctive, but reflection requires discipline. It means pausing. It means looking beyond the words to see the weakness behind them. Most people who offend are not strong, they are wounded. Do not take on their wound, rise above it. The person who offends you often wants a reaction. They want to feel powerful by pulling you into their chaos. Don't give them what they want. Give them silence, give them stillness, and give yourself mastery. In your refusal to react, you reclaim control. That is power. One of the best ways to overcome offense is to expect it. Not in a cynical way, but in a prepared way. Know that offense will come from friends, family, strangers, co-workers. Words will fly, misunderstandings will happen, and when they do not be surprised. Prepare your heart so deeply that no word can pierce your peace. When you expect offense, you stop seeing it as personal. You begin to see it as noise. Picture this. A neighbor mocks your dreams. They say your goals are too big. They laugh at your plans. The old version of you may have argued, defended, retaliated. But the grounded version of you smile, you water your garden, you return to your craft. Seasons pass, and while they still talk, you now have results. Your vision becomes undeniable. Your success becomes your voice. You won, not by arguing, but by growing. This is how you rise above. This is how you lead without shouting. You let your vision speak louder than their noise. Ask yourself, am I offended because they are wrong, or because I secretly fear they might be right? Often, offense touches a wound that has not healed. Let it be a teacher. Not every offense is meant to be resisted. Some are meant to be examined. And in doing so, you either heal or you grow stronger. Also ask, am I defending my pride or protecting my peace? Pride shouts, defend yourself. Peace whispers, you have nothing to prove. Which voice will you listen to? The more you choose peace, the more offense loses its grip. Offense is noise, a temporary disruption. But your vision, that is your symphony, that is your message, that is your calling. Let it be louder. Let it carry more weight than any insult. Do not lower your voice to match the noise. Rise in silence to match your purpose. Your response to offense is your power, not because you win arguments, but because you walk away from them with your energy intact. You protect your time, your focus, your emotional clarity. That is real victory. The garden grows best not where weeds are constantly fought, but where they are ignored and replaced with cultivation. Offense is inevitable, but being offended is a choice. Choose growth, choose silence, choose peace, and let your life become the loudest answer of all. Every reaction costs you energy. Every reaction is a withdrawal from your energy account. And just like with money, if you spend recklessly, you will find yourself depleted, not financially, but emotionally, spiritually, mentally. Some people walk through life bankrupt in peace because they've spent all their energy on what never mattered. Every disagreement, every insult, every rude glance, not all of them deserve your energy withdrawal. But many people make the mistake of reacting to everything. They chase every rumor, argue every opinion, and answer every doubter. In doing so, they exhaust their soul. They go to sleep tired, not from effort, but from emotional overexertion. But those who learn to conserve, to budget their energy, to protect their peace, they grow rich in clarity, rich in focus, rich in momentum. When you redirect your energy from reaction to creation, you stop chasing distractions and start building destiny. You must begin to budget your attention like currency. Ask yourself before reacting, is this worth the investment? Does this comment build me or drain me? Will this argument move me closer to my vision or sidetrack me? Every reaction costs something. Wisdom is learning to calculate the price before you pay it. Think of your energy as fire. Fire can warm a home, cook a meal, or forge steel. But if you scatter it across matches thrown by others, it will burn nothing but your patience. So when someone tosses a spark, an insult, a slight, a provocation, you decide, will I waste my fire on this, or will I preserve it to fuel my mission? Imagine you're on the brink of something significant. A promotion, a product launch, a life shift. You're preparing with intention, stacking your focus like bricks. Suddenly, a critic appears. Their words sting, their doubts echo. But instead of reacting, you inhale deeply, you say nothing, you return to your work. That silence becomes your strength. That unbroken focus becomes your breakthrough. Because while they were playing petty games, you were playing the long game. Ask yourself, where am I spending energy that yields no return? Who is getting more of my emotional space than they've earned? What patterns in my life are repeatedly draining me? Identify them, not to blame, but to reallocate. Your reaction should serve your purpose, not your pride, not your wounds, not your need to be right, but purpose. Anything less is emotional leakage. Understand that conservation is not cowardice. It is capacity management. It means choosing where your focus goes, what receives your attention, and who earns your presence. You cannot lead your life forward if you're busy defending it backward. There is great power in restraint. Not every battle deserves your blade. Not every insult merits your breath. Some things must be met with your silence, not your spirit, with your stillness, not your storm. You build emotional wealth the same way you build financial wealth. Through discipline, through intention, through conscious investment. Every moment you refrain from reacting, you save a portion of your peace. Every time you hold your ground instead of your tongue, you fortify your future. Master this, the art of energetic conservation, and you will find yourself operating from fullness, not fatigue, from strategy, not survival, because the person who learns to govern their reactions is no longer a puppet of emotion, but a master of direction. They are driven, not dragged, steady, not scattered, focused, not flustered. Your energy is your most valuable currency. Spend it like it matters because it does. And when you do, you will find a wealth of peace, power, and purpose that no critic, no insult, no distraction can ever touch. That is what it means to become limitless. You are the cause, not the effect. Most people drift through life like leaves caught in the wind, bending here, twisting there, tossed by circumstances, never quite landing with intention. They are pulled by opinions, shaped by moods, and pushed around by the energy of others. But you were never meant to be carried like that. You are not a leaf, you are the tree. You are not the result, you are the cause. Every time you react without intention, you give away authorship of your life. You become a character in someone else's script instead of the author of your own. But here's the truth. Your thoughts are the pen, your choices are the ink, your days are the pages. Every moment is a chance to write a new sentence. You don't wait for permission to shape your life. You pick up the pen and begin. This means real, radical, consistent ownership. Not just when things go smoothly, but especially when they don't. It's easy to say, they upset me. They stressed me out. But pause and think. Did they actually make you? Or did you hand them that power? No one can create your emotional state without your cooperation. When you decide to own your responses, your energy, your focus, your emotions, you stop being a reactor. You start becoming a creator. Ownership is not about control over external events. It is about mastery over your internal world. Because the real battlefield is not out there, it is within. If you win inside, you win everywhere. Picture this. You walk into a room buzzing with tension. People are agitated. Anxiety hangs in the air. Most people absorb that energy and mirror it. But you choose differently. You bring calm into the storm. You slow your breath. You ground your presence. You speak when needed, not to control, but to clarify. The room begins to shift, not because you forced it, but because you anchored it. That's not arrogance. That's alignment. That's ownership. You don't wait for the world to be peaceful to feel peace. You bring peace. You don't wait for opportunities. You create them. You don't wait for the right mood. You generate the energy. This is the difference between waiting for life to hand you a script and realizing you are the one writing it. Ask yourself, am I waiting for life to calm down so I can feel okay? Am I willing to create stillness within, no matter what surrounds me? Do I spend more time reacting to the world or creating something greater than it? You are not a passenger in your own story. You are the driver. You set the destination, you choose the speed, you decide when to rest and when to accelerate. And yes, the road may twist, winds may howl, obstacles may arise. But the road always bends to the will of the one holding the wheel with strength and stillness. It starts with daily choices, not grand declarations, but small consistencies. Waking with intention, responding with patience, acting with clarity, speaking with integrity, choosing creation over complaint. When the world pushes, you don't push back blindly. You pause, you realign, you act with vision, not with vengeance. Every day is a blank page. Don't let old habits, noisy opinions, or emotional reflexes write your story for you. Pick up the pen, hold it with purpose. Create sentences that honor your mission, not your moods. Direct your energy like an architect laying bricks. carefully, patiently, with an eye toward what you are building, not what you are reacting to be the cause, not the effect. This is the path of power, not loud power, not forceful power, but the quiet, unshakable power of someone who knows they are creating their life from the inside out. Own it, write it, live it. Consistency builds confidence. The loudest people are often the most uncertain. They shout not from strength, but from insecurity. They fill the air with words to mask the silence inside, because silence requires self-assurance. And when confidence is missing, noise becomes a substitute. But true confidence, genuine confidence, doesn't beg to be seen. It walks into a room steady, grounded, and doesn't need to say a word. This kind of self-belief doesn't arrive in a single moment of glory. It is not born from applause, nor is it sustained by attention. It is built in the quiet, in the unseen. It is forged in the repetition of showing up again and again, when no one is watching, when there is no fanfare. You do not become confident by being celebrated. You become confident by being consistent. Confidence begins the moment you decide to honor your word to yourself. Every time you set a standard and meet it, you place a brick in your foundation. Every morning you rise early as promised. Every time you practice your craft, even when motivation is low. Every time you choose discipline over comfort. You build trust, not with the world, but with yourself. And that trust, it becomes your power. The more you follow through, the more your inner voice begins to believe in you. Your mind says, yes, we are that person. We show up, we follow through. We are becoming who we said we would be. And that kind of confidence can't be faked. It doesn't need validation. It doesn't need to prove anything, it simply is. So when criticism comes, and it surely will, you do not flinch. You don't crumble because someone disapproves or doubts. Why? Because your identity does not live in their words. It lives in your work. It lives in the early mornings, in the focused nights, in the repetition, in the effort. You know what you've built, and you know how deep the roots go. Imagine waking up before dawn, long before anyone else stirs. While the world sleeps, you are working not for applause, but for progress. You are practicing, refining, building. Brick by brick, you construct a foundation too deep to be shaken. So when someone later mocks, questions, or ridicules you, their voice does not touch you, because you have done the work, and the work is your shield. Confidence is not a gift handed down from the heavens. It is not reserved for the lucky or the loud. It is a muscle. And like any muscle, it grows through repetition, through effort, through showing up. Ask yourself, have I truly shown up for myself? Not once, not when it was easy, but daily? Have I followed through when no one clapped, when no one noticed? Have I kept the promises I made to myself? Or have I waited for motivation, for permission, for applause? The truth is this: motivation is fleeting, applause is rare, permission is a myth. But action is always available. The more you act with integrity, not to impress others, but to align with your highest self, the more unshakable you become. True confidence is not volume, it is presence. It is walking into a room and needing nothing. It is standing firm when challenged, not because you're trying to win, but because you've already won within. It is not in the shouting, it is in the showing. So keep showing up quietly, consistently, faithfully. Let your work do the speaking. Let your discipline do the proving. Let your foundation do the standing. Because when you live this way, your presence becomes undeniable, your confidence becomes unshakable, and your journey, no matter how long, becomes unstoppable. Your peace must be non-negotiable. There is a type of peace that cannot be stolen. It is not dependent on circumstances. It is not found in a quiet room or a distant vacation. It lives in a tranquil mind, in a centered heart, in a spirit that has chosen not to be disturbed by the chaos around it. And once you have tasted this peace, truly tasted it, you will never again trade it for trivial things. Yet many people do. They sell their peace cheaply. A rude comment takes it, a small inconvenience breaks it. A delay, a disagreement, a misunderstanding. These things hijack their calm. Why? Because they never built their peace like a fortress. They wear it like a jacket, easily removed, easily lost. But peace, true peace, must be guarded. Not because you're running from life, but because you're learning to master it. So, how do you protect this peace when life gets loud? You train for it. You don't wait until the storm hits to start preparing. Like a warrior sharpening their sword before battle, you must prepare your inner world before life tests you. That training happens in silence, in stillness, in daily rituals that align you with your values, in deciding what will and will not disturb you before it even arrives. Peace is not a gift, it is a discipline. It is a muscle built through repetition. You build it by meditating, by praying, by journaling, by deciding that today, no matter what comes, you will not let the external dictate the internal. You are the gatekeeper of your emotions, and your gates must not swing open for every passerby. When you value peace, your decisions change. You no longer attend every argument you're invited to. You no longer reply to every slight. You no longer exhaust yourself trying to be understood by those committed to misunderstanding you. Some things are simply not worth the toll they take on your inner world. Imagine this. Someone cuts you off in traffic or interrupts your workflow with senseless gossip. Instead of reacting, you pause, you breathe, you smile, not with sarcasm, but with sovereignty. You move on, not because you are weak, but because your peace is stronger than their noise. You have learned the art of choosing what matters. This is where power lives, not in loud retaliation, but in quiet restraint, in knowing that you do not have to match the chaos of the world to survive in it. You can remain centered, you can hold your line, you can let others flail while you remain firm. Ask yourself honestly, what in your life is costing you peace, and is it worth the price? Are you handing over your serenity to people who haven't earned access to your emotions? Are you draining your energy on things that have nothing to do with your purpose? Peace demands boundaries. It demands self-respect. It demands the courage to disappoint others if that means staying true to yourself. And it demands presence, because so often we lose our peace by living in the regrets of the past or the anxieties of the future. Peace is not passivity. It is power. It is presence. It is choosing response over reaction. It is walking into a storm and saying, I am still. It is hearing the noise and refusing to let it enter. It is holding steady when the world tilts sideways. You have the right to protect your peace, but more than that, you have the responsibility. Because your peace is not just for you. It is for your work, your family, your purpose. When you are centered, you lead better. You live better. You love better. So build that peace like a fortress, with intention, with repetition, with clarity. Let it become the strongest part of you. And the next time life gets loud, you won't be shaken. You'll smile because you'll know your peace is too expensive to trade for noise. Discipline is the purest form of self-respect. Every time you follow through on a promise you made to yourself, you're casting a vote for the person you are becoming, and that vote counts far more than talent, luck, or applause. That vote builds your future, quietly, steadily, permanently. Because your future is not built in bursts of inspiration, but in daily integrity. Discipline is often misunderstood. It is not a punishment. It is not something forced upon you. It is a declaration of self-respect. Discipline says, I matter. It says, my goals are worth the discomfort. It says, I trust myself to do hard things, just as you would never break your word to someone you deeply respect. Discipline means you stop breaking promises to yourself. That's where self-worth grows. Not from affirmations, not from waiting to feel worthy, but from showing yourself through action that you are. People often wait for the perfect moment to start, a clean slate, the right mood. But there is no perfect time, there is only now. Waiting delays your destiny. It pushes potential one more day into the distance. And while you wait for everything to feel right, someone else with less talent but more consistency is building what you keep dreaming about. True strength is forged in the fire of discomfort. It is built when you do what needs to be done even when your emotions say otherwise. And every time you push past resistance, every time you rise early, stay late, hold the line, you send a signal to the universe. That signal says, I am serious. And the world, in time, always responds to seriousness. Imagine this. It's dark outside, the world sleeps, and there you are, awake, focused, working on your vision. There's no audience, no praise, just you, your discipline, and your dream. That habit becomes your identity, and that identity, it shapes your destiny. Because what you do repeatedly, you become. And what you become consistently, you manifest into the world. Your discipline sculpts your character, and your character carries your future. You don't get lucky, you get prepared. And preparation begins with honoring the smallest of promises. Ask yourself, what promise have I delayed on? What commitment have I justified postponing? What action do I keep telling myself I'll take tomorrow? And then ask this, who would I become if I simply kept my word, not to the world, but to myself? Because when you build discipline, you build trust. When you build trust, you build confidence. When you build confidence, you build power. And power is not about control over others. It is control over you, your energy, your choices, your focus. Discipline is the difference between those who fantasize and those who realize. It is the quiet engine behind every great creation. The author who writes every morning, the athlete who trains every day, the entrepreneur who builds brick by brick. None of them waited for permission. They acted, and in acting, they transformed. There will always be a voice that says, "It can wait." There will always be a reason to delay, a distraction to indulge, a comfort to seek. But discipline is the voice that says, "Do it anyway." Not out of pressure, but out of purpose. You are not just building a routine, you are building you. Your resilience, your belief, your future. Let your discipline be a sacred contract, a daily recommitment to the person you said you wanted to become. So start today. Keep one small promise, then another. Let that momentum build. Let it reshape your identity. Because in that identity lives your destiny. When you keep your word, you build trust. When you build trust, you become unstoppable. Not because the road is easy, but because you no longer wait for the road to get easier. You move forward anyway. And that, more than anything, is how greatness is built. Protect the space where you think. Your greatest asset is not time, it is clarity. Time without direction is wasted. But clarity sharpens every minute. It turns hours into results. It makes your energy count, and here is the truth few acknowledge. Clarity does not arrive by accident. It must be protected. It must be cultivated. It only thrives in the spaces you guard from the noise of the world. Most people are too busy reacting to ever reflect. They wake to the ping of their phone. They scroll, they rush, they answer emails, messages, opinions. All before their own thoughts have even had a chance to speak. They live in constant response, from one stimulus to the next. And then they wonder why they feel lost, why their goals feel distant, why their mind feels cloudy. But how can clarity exist in a mind that is always being pulled? To live with clarity, you must guard your mind, not casually, not when it's convenient, but deliberately, with urgency. Reserve time, space, and silence in your life. Not as a luxury, but as a necessity, because that space is where thinking happens, and thinking, real thinking, is where vision lives. The most powerful ideas are not born in a rush, they are born in stillness. The most important decisions are not made in chaos, they are made in calm. The most resilient leaders, the ones who outlast the noise, are those who value mental space over mental clutter. They think before they speak, they pause before they act, they question before they commit. And that pause, that space, that is their edge. Start with structure. Don't wait to find time to think. Build it, schedule it, prioritize it. Thinking time is not wasted time. It is the source of your strategy, your self-awareness, your sanity. Walk without your phone, write in a notebook, sit in solitude, step away from the crowd. Not because you dislike people, but because you value your mind more. Imagine this: 1 hour each day, no notifications, no multitasking, just you, a journal, and your thoughts. You review your progress. You ask yourself tough questions. Where am I going? What's working? What's noise? You refine your vision. You adjust your course. That single hour becomes your advantage in a distracted world. That hour creates clarity, and clarity does something powerful. It simplifies. It silences the unimportant. It makes the next step obvious. It gives you the strength to say no without guilt, and the courage to say yes with conviction. It makes your path visible and your purpose personal. Ask yourself, do I protect time to think or only time to react? Am I building a life by design or drifting through life by default? When was the last time I sat with my own mind, uninterrupted, and asked it what it truly wants? If your answer is vague, if your calendar is full, but your mind is not clear, it is time to reset. Because clarity is not a bonus. It is the foundation of everything that matters. Your business, your relationships, your health, your happiness, all of them flow downstream from the clarity of your thoughts. So make your thinking space sacred. Guard it like your future depends on it, because it does. Don't wait for the world to slow down. Don't expect your best thoughts to survive the noise. Create the stillness, demand the space, protect your clarity like you would protect your most valuable asset, because that's what it is. When you master clarity, you master your direction. When you master your direction, you master your days. And when you master your days, you master your life. When you detach, you decide. Freedom begins the moment you detach. Not from people, not from life, but from need. The need for validation, the need for applause, the need for approval, the need to be understood by everyone. Because when you stop needing, you start choosing. And in that choice, you reclaim the steering wheel of your life. Too often, we tie our emotions to outcomes we cannot control. Someone's opinion shifts our mood. A closed door diminishes our sense of worth. A lack of response feels like rejection. But all of these are illusions rooted in attachment. When you detach, you don't stop caring. You start leading. You start moving from intention, not from reaction. You start asking, does this align with my mission? And if it doesn't, you let it pass without losing your peace. Detachment is not coldness, not avoidance, not indifference, it is clarity. It is the inner knowing that you are whole, regardless of external response. It is the discipline of staying rooted in your purpose, even when the crowd turns away. Picture walking into a room full of critics. Their faces are unmoved, their eyes skeptical. But you walk tall. Why? Because you didn't come for them. You came for your mission. You came to deliver, not to be decorated. That's detachment in motion. A fierce presence rooted not in praise, but in purpose. Begin small. The next time things don't go your way, pause. Don't spiral. Don't rush to blame. Don't ask, why me? Instead ask, what now? That one question shifts your state. It moves you from victimhood into vision, from emotion into execution. Imagine your work is rejected, a proposal, a pitch, a creative idea turned down. The old self might spiral, might doubt, might shut down, but the detached self, the grounded self, it breathes, it reflects, it refines. And within days, a better opportunity arises. An opportunity you might have missed if you had stayed buried in disappointment. That's the gift of detachment. It keeps you moving. Ask yourself, am I attached to outcomes or committed to progress? Do I only feel worthy when I win, or can I stay grounded in the process? Would I still show up if nobody clapped? True power is showing up for you, for your stand, for your calling. Detachment means you no longer need a green light from the world to proceed. You are the green light. You act not from need, but from clarity, not from fear, but from fullness. This shift rewires everything. Suddenly, rejection isn't personal, it's redirection. Criticism isn't an attack, it's feedback. And silence becomes space for you to hear your own voice more clearly. Detachment isn't apathy, it is mastery. It's not that you feel less, you actually feel more aligned. You become less reactive and more responsive. You don't jump into every fight. You don't chase every insult. You conserve your energy for what matters. It allows you to move through life with quiet authority. You stop chasing validation, and in that very moment, you become more magnetic. You stop begging for opportunity, and in that release, doors begin to open. Detachment gives you perspective, and perspective gives you peace. You begin to see that life is not always about control, it's about alignment. Not about pleasing others, but about staying true to yourself. So build this habit step by step. Practice the pause, practice the release. Strengthen your identity until it no longer relies on the echo of applause. Let go of what you cannot control. Hold tight to your intention. Walk your path whether or not it is praised. And when you do, something remarkable happens. You gain a sense of power that cannot be shaken. Because it isn't built on the external, it's built on you. That is what freedom feels like. That is what movement looks like. That is the power of detachment. Your identity shapes your reality. Before anything can change in your life, something must first shift in your mind. The most overlooked truth in transformation is this. Your self-perception is the thermostat for your entire life. It sets the limit on what you allow, what you pursue, and what you expect from the world and from yourself. If you see yourself as ordinary, your actions will echo that belief. You will aim lower, speak softer, and settle quicker. Not because you lack potential, but because you haven't adjusted the thermostat. On the other hand, when you begin to see yourself as someone worthy, someone capable, someone determined, everything shifts. Not because your environment changes, but because you do. Identity leads, results follow. Most people have it backwards. They think, once I get the job, the success, the validation, then I'll believe in myself. But life doesn't work that way. Identity is not the reward, it is the requirement. You decide who you are, and the results begin to rearrange themselves to match that decision. So, how do you shift identity? Not through dramatic declarations, but through daily evidence. You stack small wins, you create consistency, you show up when it's hard. You keep your word, especially to yourself. Each act becomes proof. Each proof reinforces belief, and belief carves identity. You begin to speak differently, not as someone who's trying, but as someone who's becoming. You stop saying, I hope I can, and start saying, I am learning to. You walk differently, shoulders back, chin up. You keep promises you once dismissed. You raise your standards and enforce them. This is how a new identity is born. Not through one breakthrough moment, but through thousands of micro-decisions that affirm, yes, this is who I am now. Think of someone you know who carries themselves with quiet confidence. They may not have more talent than anyone else, but they act as if they belong in every room they enter. Why? Because somewhere along the line they decided they do, and that decision became their armor. That identity became their invitation. Imagine walking into a new opportunity, a meeting, a stage, an interview, not as someone hoping to be good enough, but as someone owning their value. You speak with clarity, you act with purpose, you're not performing, you're aligning. And people notice, doors open, respect rises. Not because you forced it, but because you owned it. Ask yourself, is my identity keeping pace with my goals, or is it quietly pulling them back? Do I say I want to lead, but see myself as a follower? Do I dream of success, but speak as if I'm still uncertain? Identity friction is real. You can only rise to the level of the person you believe yourself to be. So who must you become for your dreams to feel normal, not miraculous, not rare, just expected? What does that version of you believe? How do they act, speak, choose? Start being that person now, not later, but now. Because the future you're chasing is waiting for the version of you that already believes it's possible. That version doesn't procrastinate, doesn't second guess, doesn't shrink to fit old patterns. That version leads, takes action, creates momentum. That version is already within you, and every aligned decision brings them closer. This is the power of identity. It is not fixed, it is forged. You don't wait for life to prove you're worthy. You decide it, you embody it, you build it. And when you do, the world mirrors it back. Be that person now, not someday, but now. Fear fades through forward motion. Fear only grows when you freeze. When you stand still, when you delay, when you allow the unknown to expand in your imagination, fear multiplies. It gains shape, color, weight. It begins to look larger than life. But the moment you move, even slightly, you start to take its power back. Because fear isn't always rooted in reality. More often, it's rooted in uncertainty. And motion, even imperfect motion, slices through that fog. Every great breakthrough in life begins with a simple truth. I don't have to feel ready. I just have to move. That single mindset shift changes everything. Waiting for readiness is a trap. It postpones purpose. It trains your body to wait instead of act. And the longer you hesitate, the heavier fear becomes. But when you act, even if you stumble, you send a different signal to your mind. We don't shrink, we rise. Courage is not something you stumble upon. It is not a lightning strike. It is not a magical moment of certainty. You build it, brick by brick, step by step. You build courage by showing up to the moment, even when your heart pounds and your voice shakes. The magic is not in feeling brave. The magic is in moving anyway. Picture yourself standing at the edge of something important, a conversation you need to have, a dream you want to chase, a stage you want to step onto. But fear holds the door. Instead of backing away, you walk in. Your hands may tremble, your words may stumble, but you show up. You take that step, and something shifts. The fear begins to melt, not because it disappeared, but because you didn't obey it. Every time you act in the presence of fear, you do two things. You shrink the fear, and you grow yourself. You remind your nervous system, this does not own me. And over time, your actions begin to rewire your belief. You start to see yourself differently, not as the person who hides, but as the person who steps forward. Ask yourself, where am I waiting for fear to vanish before I begin? What project, conversation, risk, or change have I delayed because I hoped one day the fear would simply disappear? And what if that fear isn't the barrier, but the invitation? The signal that something meaningful lies on the other side? Fear is loud. It screams worst-case scenarios. It magnifies doubt. But fear is also fragile. It cannot survive repeated, deliberate action. The more you move, the more its voice fades. And each time you choose motion over hesitation, you add another layer of armor to your confidence. You become the kind of person who says, yes, I feel it, but I do it anyway. You become someone who transforms fear into fuel. Someone who understands that courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the decision that fear will not dictate the outcome. This is how leaders rise, how creators build, how dreams are born. Not through the comfort of certainty, but through the discipline of action. They step in, they speak up, they start before they feel ready, and in doing so, they create the readiness. So if you're scared, good. That means it matters. That means you care. But do not wait for that fear to leave. Invite it, bring it with you. Let it sit in the passenger seat, but never hand it the wheel. Take one step today. Send the message, speak the idea, walk through the door. You do not need to be perfect. You only need to move. Because every time you do, you teach fear a lesson it will never forget. You are the one in control. You are the one who decides. And fear only grows in stillness. But in motion, it loses its voice. And that's where your power begins. Emotional mastery is the mark of leadership. The true leader is not the loudest in the room, not the one with the strongest voice, the biggest title, or the most visible accolades. The true leader is the one who remains centered when others spin, in a world constantly pulled by noise, pressure, and distraction. The most powerful presence is the one that stays grounded. Leadership begins not with authority, but with emotional control. Not suppression, not denial, but awareness. The ability to feel deeply and still respond wisely. To experience frustration without becoming reactive. To feel fear without surrendering to it. This is what sets real leaders apart, not their volume, but their vibration. Most people follow whoever makes the most noise. But when crisis hits, they instinctively seek the one who is calm, the one who listens before speaking, the one who weighs their words and chooses direction over drama. That person commands attention without ever demanding it, and that person can be you. You do not need a title to lead. You don't need a corner office or a formal invitation. You need clarity, character, composure. Leadership is not granted by position. It is earned through presence. And presence begins with how you manage yourself. When frustration rises, you breathe. When chaos hits, you slow down. When emotions flare, you become the anchor. That steadiness becomes your influence. People begin to lean in, not because you shout, but because you don't. Your energy signals safety, and safety builds trust. Imagine yourself in a tense room. Voices are raised, emotions run high. Accusations, blame, and noise fill the space. But you remain still. You observe, you listen, you speak with intent, not impulse. Your presence doesn't just shift the moment, it shifts the entire room. Not because you forced control, but because you modeled it. That's what leaders do. They set the tone, not through command, but through example. Not by saying, follow me, but by embodying a path worth following. Ask yourself, in my daily life, am I reacting like the crowd or responding like a leader? Do I let circumstances dictate my energy, or do I lead myself first? Because here's the truth. If you can't lead yourself, you will never be able to lead others. The world doesn't need more people seeking power. It needs more people mastering presence. And presence is built in the quiet decisions, the way you respond when no one is watching, the way you hold your center when everything around you shakes. Emotional mastery is not coldness. It is command. It is not the absence of emotion. It is the maturity to manage it. To let emotions inform you, not control you. To choose your behavior rather than be chosen by your reaction. And it begins with a decision that nothing outside of you deserves to dictate what happens inside of you. Not a harsh word, not a setback, not a provocation. You are not a puppet to external chaos. You are the calm within it. Leadership, at its core, is about influence, and influence is energy. The energy you carry, the energy you share, the energy you stabilize. People remember how you made them feel, not just in calm times, but in crisis. Be the one they remember for your steadiness, for your clarity, for your calm. This is how you lead, not by overpowering others, but by mastering yourself. Not by trying to control every situation, but by controlling your response to it. That's where your true power lies. So choose today to lead. Not someday, not when it's easy, not when others ask you to. Choose now, in every conversation, in every challenge, in every conflict. Show up with intention, with composure, with purpose, and you will begin to notice people follow those who walk with calm, who speak with clarity, who respond with wisdom. And the more you practice this, the more your presence becomes undeniable. Because leadership isn't about being at the front, it's about being the foundation, the one who holds steady so others can rise. Be that, and you will lead with or without the title. Resilience is remembering who you are. Life will test you, not once, but repeatedly. It will send waves of uncertainty, pain, and pressure, and just when you think you've caught your breath, another wave crashes in. You will fall, you will question, you will doubt. But resilience isn't about avoiding the storm. It's about remembering who you are when the storm hits. Most people forget. They shrink. They mistake their setbacks as identity. They define themselves by their lowest moment, their most public failure, or their most painful season. But your value isn't erased in failure. It is revealed in how you respond to it. The fall does not define you, the rise does. Resilience is not a one-time decision. It is a daily choice. It's the internal voice that says, yes, this is hard, yes, this hurts, but I've been forged for this. I've been here before and I rose before. That is not bravado. That is identity. A deep-rooted understanding that you are not what happens to you. You are what you do after it happens. How do you build that kind of strength? You begin by remembering your past victories. You recall every battle you endured and overcame. You remind yourself of every morning you got out of bed when it would have been easier to stay down. You use your history as fuel, not as a cage. You don't relive it to stay stuck in it. You revisit it to remember your strength. Resilience grows when you change the story you tell yourself. Instead of saying, I failed, you say, I learned. Instead of saying, they left, you say, I made space for better. Instead of saying, this broke me, you say, this built me. These are not just words, they are anchors. They hold you steady when the wind picks up. Picture this. A goal falls through, a door closes, a rejection stings. Most collapse into the story of not enough. But you pause, you reflect. You remind yourself this isn't the end. This is the next chapter. You rise, and in doing so, you write a new narrative. One where you are not the victim, but the warrior. Ask yourself, in what area of life have I allowed disappointment to define me? Where have I accepted defeat when I should have chosen resilience? What would change if instead of replaying what went wrong, I replayed every moment I overcame? Resilience is not about being unaffected. It is about being undeterred. It is knowing that pain is real, but progress is possible. That healing takes time, but power is still within reach. It is the muscle you flex when motivation fades, the voice that whispers, we keep going. And here's the secret. The more you choose to rise, the easier it becomes. Not because life gets easier, but because you get stronger. Each act of resilience adds a layer to your armor. Each comeback becomes part of your story. And eventually, people no longer see the fall. They only see the one who never stayed down. You are not the chapter you're in. You are the whole book, and no single loss, heartbreak, failure, or delay gets to write your ending. Let your resilience be your reputation. Let it be what people remember about you, that no matter what came your way, you kept walking. That no matter how heavy life got, you never surrendered your spirit. You are more than this current season. You are the sum of every time you chose to get back up. Let that truth define you. Let that mindset carry you forward. Let that strength be the bridge to your next breakthrough, because victory doesn't come to the one who never faced resistance. It comes to the one who faced it all and kept rising anyway. So rise again and again and again. That's resilience. That's you. Decide today to stop giving power to things that don't deserve your energy. Train your mind to remain calm, centered, and unshaken. Every reaction you withhold is strength gained. Every emotion mastered is a victory earned. Walk with quiet confidence. Act as if nothing affects you, because inner power is everything.